Welcome to the Dad Nation podcast, the place where high-performing men are empowered to reclaim their home, their health, and their happiness while enhancing their career success. You see, in a world full of noise, burnout, and mediocrity, we believe what's missing is courageous and compassionate leadership in the home, because when the dad gets better, the whole family wins. You see, this isn't just a podcast. It's a movement of men who refuse to settle for less in our families, our focus, and our future. We are curse breakers and we are legacy makers. And I'm your host, Mitchell Osman, and I'm honored that you have chosen to invest your most valuable asset, which is your time, with me today. Now let's get into it. Well, welcome to the Dad Nation podcast. I'm so thankful that you have all joined us today. And I am looking forward to this conversation because today we are going to be speaking with Katherine Sellery, and she is the CEO and the founder of the Conscious Parenting Revolution, where she empowers families to replace disconnection and power struggles with collaboration, respect, and emotional intelligence. And as the creator of the guidance approach to parenting, she has taught conflict resolution skills through workshops, through coaching, and helping thousands of parents and professionals worldwide forge healthy relationships. As an Amazon best-selling author and a 3-time TEDx speaker, Katherine's work has been featured on major networks like ABC, Fox, the Extra TV, and she holds leadership roles on the International Association of the Human Values Board. Love that bio. That's exciting. And so all of that, Katherine, hey, we're so glad that you're on the show today.
It's so nice to be here, Mitchell. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Well, we're happy to have you. And something we talk a lot about here on the show is parenting. Not a lot about, some of the emotional regulation and just some of those tensions and stuff. So, which I'm really looking forward to getting into with you. But I'm going to ask you the age-old question, the one that everyone asks. What got you into this space? Like, I'm assuming you're a mom. I'm assuming you have kids. So tell us a little bit about yourself and then what kind of got you into this world.
Yeah, no, I'm happy to share. So I was just a new mom and trying to figure out how to be a great mom. And that's when I came up against the fact that I really knew nothing about what I was doing. And so I began searching for support to be able to do something other than what was done to me. So I think we just fall back on whatever we experienced as being our playbook. And I didn't want to just do that. I wanted to find something else to handle conflict aside from my experience growing up. So that required some training and education. And before you knew it, I just became just taken in with the whole thing, saw the impact, what a big difference it makes if we're really good at our parenting job, that it became my center. I was a commodities trader. I trained as went to law school. I've all kinds of different things I've done in my life, but really it's the work with families that I am most impassioned about.
Well, that's beautiful. And law school, commodities trading. That's quite different than specializing in parenting.
Totally.
quite the shift. So why don't we kick it off with this, because you talk a lot about conscious parenting.
Yeah.
Right. And, we know, well, even if I were to say the word traditional parenting, maybe that means different things for different people. So why don't we kick it off by just defining what conscious parenting is and how it's different from traditional parenting?
Sure. So conscious parenting really is that we have a choice about how we respond to situations as opposed to default. And I think most of us, I certainly faced that. I didn't know what else to do other than to just keep drawing on my experience. And most of that experience came from being on the other end, right? As the child growing up. And I had that playbook, which I could just fall into. And I knew the ways in which I could know for myself how it was not very effective, and how for my siblings, I could see the anxiety and just all of the things that were fraught in the relationships in my family of origin as a result of, I'm going to call it unconscious parenting. They relied on their playbook and it was kind of that historical generational playbook that everybody, I think, works from until they become conscious of patterns, and that the pattern itself is running the show. And when you've got a pattern running the show, it's almost like you're not there.
Yeah.
It's a dance, and it's so entrenched. The dance is running the dancers, and the dancers aren't choosing the steps. So the conscious parenting revolution is just being able to choose my response so that it's a choice how I respond, not just a knee-jerk reactive dance that we fall into.
Okay. Now, let's talk a little bit about what it looks like to be, to adopt the conscious parenting style. So maybe you can give me a scenario where, because a lot of my listeners are going to be, newer dads.
Sure.
And so what's a scenario where, a person would, how they would handle it from a traditional perspective, and then how they would handle it from a conscious perspective. Does that make sense?
Sure. Absolutely. It's a good way for us to go forward. So before we go into the scenario, can I lay a little foundation?
Sure.
Okay. So one of the things that I find is most triggering to parents and parents of little kids, as well as they grow older, is when we hear or the behaviors demonstrate a lack of cooperation. So no is a classic example, which, it's kind of like, well, how much choice do you have here? So there's two sort of main camps. One is the kids that want to please you. And so we're going to call those kids our belongers. And they're motivated to not upset you because they actually feel better about themselves when they feel like their belongingness is not at stake. So they want to please you. You could call them the pleasers. There's a whole bunch of other problems that arise when people just want to please other people, but it does make for easier kids to raise. And then we've got this other group of kids. We're going to call them our more autonomous kids. And those are the ones who are prepared to risk your displeasure in order to be more self-determined. And these kids will usually just trigger their parents because they're not actually concerned with risking your displeasure.
I love you're saying this in such a kind, loving way. I like the autonomy and the
absolutely
determined.
For sure. And we could call them names, but I like us to just stay grounded in sort of the NVC principles, which is sort of one of the key foundations of my perspective. Is NVC is nonviolent communication. Are you familiar with the NVC principles?
Well, I am a little bit, but why don't you communicate it just for our listeners?
So the NVC principles are that all behaviors are motivated to meet needs. So when we look at behaviors as need satisfying, or we can look at the behavior that we're seeing as the tragic expression of the unmet need. In either case, it's motivated by either the needs are met. So need satisfying behaviors on the surface, we would see the happy-go-lucky little guy who's just, you can tell everything about them. Their expression is oozing. I just don't have any unmet needs. I feel loved. I feel connected. I feel joyful. I feel like my family are just doting over me and I couldn't be happier. And then we can see the tragic expression of the unmet needs. Someone for whom their needs are not being met. And a lot of times those needs are basic. Food, air, water, and sleep, especially with young kids. And I think a lot of the audience have young kids. And when their unmet needs for food, air, water, and sleep, the basic Maslow hierarchy of needs, level 1 needs, if those needs aren't being met, any higher level needs are inconsequential in the moment. There's no negotiating with a child whose level 1 needs are not met. You just meet the need. If they're hungry, you feed them. If they're tired, they go to sleep. And those are basically the needs. However, food, air, water, and sleep aside, there's also a great big need for belongingness and love as a need. And in not the NVC parlance, love is a need. It's not just a feeling. It's actually a need. So I would say before we even move up Maslow's hierarchy to psychological safety and security, level 2 needs, or to the third level of needs, which are those needs for belongingness. And before we go anywhere higher, we can usually just stay down at those level 1, level 2 needs, because with little kids, they're pretty simple. So food, air, water, sleep, and then psychological safety. And so if you're using a foundation to support you with kids whose needs are not being met that relies on anything fear-based, then you're activating their unmet. The need for psychological safety and security is now unmet, which could cause escalation. So those are sort of the foundations of NVC. Behaviors are the reflection of needs being met or unmet. If people are falling apart, their needs are not met. How we respond to people who are drowning because their needs are not met is our choice. And if we perceive people whose needs are not met and who drown impolitely, and the problem is how they drown, then we're off course. Because now we're dealing with secondary problems as though they're the primary issue when they're not. And I think that's where a lot of people get lost.
Yeah, certainly. Hey, can I ask you something real quick? If this show has helped you out in any way, if you've gotten any value, clarity, or even just one gut check moment that's made you a better man, husband, or father, would you take 60 seconds and leave us an honest rating or review? And if you're watching on YouTube, make sure to subscribe to our channel so you never miss a drop. And if you really want to pay it forward, share this episode with a friend. Why? Because we know that there are millions of men out there silently struggling in their marriage, in their health, and in their mindset. Men who maybe were where you were just a few steps ago, feeling tired, stuck, and searching for answers. Finding this podcast might be the thing that changes everything for them. So thank you for being part of this movement and for helping more men become the husbands and fathers their families so desperately need. Now let's get back to the show. Well, even breaking that down into the tiers, the levels is helpful, I think, for parents to understand. And so could you, just for the sake of, this hierarchy, could you explain the other levels as well? Level 3, level 4?
Sure. So level 1, basic needs, food, air, water, and sleep. Level 2, safety, psychological safety. Level 3, those are the needs for belonging and autonomy, right? So those are self-esteem needs. And so how do we meet our self-esteem? Some children meet it through a sense of belongingness. And those, as we talked about earlier, they need choice. They need to feel that their needs for autonomy are being met. Now, this is probably where a lot of conflict arises, because children's needs for autonomy are disregarded almost without fail in every family, because there are a lot of embedded beliefs about children, and some of them have to do with doing as you're told because I said so. They have to do with power and control. And because that paradigm is set up, it's almost embedded that there will be more power and control being used in order to stamp out a child's needs for autonomy, because a lot of people don't believe they should have that need. And if they have it, they should not express it. So then we get to level 4 needs. Level 4 needs are mastery. So the need for mastery is embedded in all of us. We all want to feel a sense of mastery. So we don't have to pretend that if I don't make them do it, they won't want to. If I don't instill in them the desire for mastery and, they won't have it. The question becomes, do they have that deep desire for mastery in reading, writing, and arithmetic? Or do they only have that deep desire for mastery in play and maybe Game Boy and maybe other areas? Maybe kickball, maybe football, maybe basketball, maybe swimming, maybe things that are non-academic. you can see the desire for mastery arising. Maybe playing games, but maybe not in the academics. And that would then become another question of, are your expectations appropriate for the age of the child? Do we expect a 5-year-old to want mastery in reading, writing, and arithmetic? Or do we pretty much recognize that the mastery they're looking for is probably more around games and play? And then finally, level 5 is self-realization. And Maslow said that if you're meeting your needs for level 1 through 4, the level for mastery will arise. Or sorry, not mastery, for self-realization. So we have this hierarchy, and we want to just be recognizing that every day on an ongoing basis, all of us are meeting our needs for level 1, 2, 3, 4, and potentially 5. So one thing that he left out, Maslow actually doesn't talk about the need for autonomy. It's a big miss. He also missed on the need for fun, a huge miss. So in the guidance approach to parenting, which is what I co-wrote with a couple of other people, we talk about those missing aspects because they're huge drivers, The need for fun. It's ironic that I would have so many of my clients who are adults who are changing their lives around because they're not having enough fun. So it's not just children, it's adults as well. Fun is a driver. And the absence of fun is a driver. The need to meet the need for fun is huge.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's a great question. If you were to ask an adult, do you feel as though you have enough fun, or do you want to have more fun, or do you even feel like you should have fun? Because I think a lot of people probably think, well, no, I'm not supposed to have fun. That's
could be. Yeah,
right?
Could be. Yeah, as if we're supposed to get it out of our systems.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think people quit their jobs and make massive changes at certain stages in their life because of this one unmet need.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that would make sense because they're looking for something.
Well, they've got food, air, water, and sleep, presumably psychological safety. They do feel like they have belonging. And now mastery at certain levels. Okay, self-realization shows up, and so does fun.
Yeah. Let's go back to, having a child that has a need for autonomy.
Okay.
So because I'm curious, there's a couple questions I have around autonomy and the other one about the need for mastery. So how do you know your child might have a need for mastery, and how do you autonomy? Because you had said this is the most messy one, and this is the one where parents are like, no, I said so, right?
Yeah.
How do you know if your child has a need for autonomy? And if they do, how do you as a parent meet that need in a healthy way?
Great. So I would say to any of the listeners out there who have more than one child and they have one that's seems just like naturally cooperative, that would likely be your belonger. Mm-hmm. And if they also in that same family have one that's radically different and seems to be so much more work, that would likely be your autonomous child. And so the thing about the kids that are not autonomous is that you don't ever really need to use threats because they do want to please you. And if they're having difficulty getting there, it's probably back to food, air, water, and sleep. They're probably just, acting out because they're exhausted or they're tired or it's hangry. So if you have your autonomous child, more often than not, your language doesn't convey any choice. So it doesn't feel like requests ever to that child. Everything that comes out of your mouth sounds like a demand. And it's going to activate the dance, and the dance of anger and defiance. Everybody kind of knows when they're in the dance of anger and defiance is that you're getting angrier and they're getting more and more defiant. Mm-hmm. So, hey, could you pick up your toys? I want to set the table for dinner and, I can't do it. And they just ignore you. And so then you say something like, hey, if you don't move your toys and pick them up, no ice cream, no dessert. I don't like your stupid dessert. Oh, okay. So now we're beginning to smell that dance of anger and defiance, right? So in my training, I use this great example that comes from Everybody Loves Raymond. And you see the dance of anger and defiance building. And this is the actual story where Allie doesn't pick her toys up. Deborah gets upset. Ray, could you handle this? Right? So then Ray comes in and says, you have to do what mom says. Why? Well, 'cause I do, he says. And then he's like, all right, you got to do it. Grandma steps in and she tries to bribe the behavior. Well, I'll pay you. She gives her candy. And so this is a typical parent who either uses rewards or punishments, the carrot or the stick. And they try to get the behavior they want through one or the other mechanism. And so I'm not sure about your audience, but I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of people use this method. Rewards and punishments. If you don't, no dessert. If you do, you get candy. And then grandma gives her the candy and she doesn't do it. And Ray's like, well, you don't pay her up front, right? Wait till you get the change in behavior. All of what I'm talking about is behavioralism. As if you get a behavior by either paying for the behavior with the so-called hoped for reward or stepping in with the punishment. So then he starts to go into the threats. All right, if you don't pick up your toys, no TV for a week. And she just grinds her little feet in and draws a line in the sands, and two of them are looking each other down. And finally, she doesn't back down, and neither does he. All right, that's it. No TV for a week. She runs upstairs, slams the door. I hate you, Daddy. So now we're fully into anger and defiance. The dance is played out. Not only do we not have the toys picked up, but now we have all of these other secondary problems. So we look at life through the primary lens of what's the primary issue. She won't pick up her toys. And then we go to now, because of the approach you've used, which is the power over approach, you end up with, I hate you, Daddy, and the slam door. And nobody's the wiser. Nobody has a clue what was getting in the way of Allie not picking up her toys or what could have happened otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
So what would you have done?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's where choice comes in, right?
Choice definitely comes in.
Mm-hmm.
So you could have pivoted. And in this case, Deborah could have done something like, God, I wonder why she's saying no to me. So sort of the catch-all is a child saying no to you. They're saying yes to something inside themselves. So what was Allie saying yes to? Right? That was more important than saying yes to her mom. What could she not overcome internally in order for her to pivot in the moment and just say yes to her mom? That's what we don't know, because nobody got curious about it. So Deborah could have gotten curious. She could have said, wow, it seems like, there's something about moving everything that's really hard for you. And I'm just wondering if I can understand more about what's going on here. Now, maybe Allie would take the bait. And maybe she would have said something about like why it was so difficult for her to move everything. Or maybe she could have guessed. So one or the other could have worked. I can see you got everything set up here. You've used the whole dining room table to set up your entire village. And then she would have been like acknowledging what she was seeing. And Allie could have had a chance to say, yeah, I've got everything all set up. My whole village is set up. Took me all day. And you want me to just move it? Oh, and there could be that realization. I see. You have no idea how to reset all of this up somewhere else. And you feel like I'm wrecking your game. Yeah. I don't know what to do. I feel like you're wrecking it for me. It took me all day to get this set up. Oh, I see. Okay. So what could we do? I'm happy to pitch in. I could help set this thing up. We could take a picture. Now you're into collaborative problem solving. Like, how could we set this up somewhere else? I could take a picture. We could figure it out. I could also help you. We could also get like, oh, there's that box outside, that such and such came in from Costco. Maybe we could set it up in that and move it. Now we're into troubleshooting, because our assumption isn't that she's being defiant. Our assumption isn't that Allie's just a bad kid who's never cooperative. We start to analyze what we think about kids that don't just do what we want. And if you're using a needs-based paradigm and everybody's just only ever trying to meet their needs, it's not that somebody's bad. It's not that they're defiant. It's not that they're out to get us. It's that this thing I'm asking them to do is going to get in the way of them meeting a need. Oh, okay. Well, that's a very different situation. Now I'm kind of just curious about like what's going on.
Yeah.
It's a very different come from.
Certainly.
And now all of a sudden you've enrolled this child in trying to meet my needs to get the table back because I'm acknowledging there's something other than defiance going on when they just don't do what I asked them to do the first time. Because we're not gaming for obedience and compliance. That's really dangerous. To teach children to be obedient and compliant because I have power over them. They have no way to discern who else that has power over me has my best interests at stake.
Which causes problems later on in life.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And this is really what you're articulating here is conscious parenting, right? It's going to the next level. It's consciously thinking, okay, yeah, you're going under the surface and under the surface and under the surface, which is beautiful. You talk a bit about power being used over someone, and I think I had read that you said that 75% of behavior disruptions are a reaction to power being used over someone.
Yeah.
So how is that? I mean, I think that's connected to what you were just saying.
It is.
Break that down.
Great. We can go into that. So from the research, we have a couple of different things that we know. Number one is that retaliation, rebellion, and resistance account for 75% of behavioral disruptions. So as a result of using power over, you end up with the slam door, I hate you, daddy. So that is the secondary problem. And so what we also know from the research is 75% of behavioral disruptions are retaliation, rebellion, and resistance. 3 out of 4. So we get away from the primary issues. In this case, the primary issue was, I need to get the table cleaned up. I need some cooperation. And we get so far away from that because of how we approached this problem. Our conflict resolution skills are so inadequate. As parents, really, I don't know a lot of people who had anything modeled for them other than rewards and punishments. Yeah. So we just had such a limited palette modeled for us. As a result, we just automatically go into this default of rewards and punishments, trying to figure out which lever to push and for how long and how hard. And as a result, we activate the 3 R's. And now I'm dealing with all of the different retaliation, rebellion, and resistance because of how I dealt with my first initial problem. These become overwhelming then. If we're just dealing with the one problem and if we deal with it effectively, if our conflict resolution skills are if we up level, then we just deal with the one thing and we never activate the 3 R's. We're just back at the table working out the situation of resistance. I'm getting some resistance from Allie. What am I going to do about it? I can go into judgment, but effective communication starts with observation. Always observation, not judgment. We put judgment aside and we just don't go there anymore because judgments are without taking the other person into consideration. It's my experience of your resistance that I'm now labeling and going into the judgment. So observation without evaluation is the highest form of human intelligence. So Krishnamurti is the keystone here. And Krishnamurti is the one who said observation without evaluation is the highest form of human intelligence. Can I just be the observer? Wow. Allie isn't going to move anything. Allie's not going to move anything. So I'm just observing it. She's really not going to cooperate. I wonder what's going on over there. Now I'm just filled with curiosity, wondering what's going on for Allie, that she's so resistant. And now I'm going to ask. Then, of course, we can substitute an older person. Say, in this case, it would have been Raymond. What if Raymond had set everything up for some project at work and the table was taken over by his work material? Could have happened. So would anybody think when she said, "Hey, Raymond, could you move everything?" And he's like, he's so wrapped up, he doesn't even respond. And her thought process would probably be, God, this must be a really big problem. I wonder what he's working on. I wonder if I can help him out. Ray, is there anything I can do? Do you want me to set dinner up someplace else? I mean, chances are it would automatically go into a problem solve as opposed to, Raymond, you are so inconsiderate. Right? Because this is ageism, and ageism is real. So I feel like I'm the advocate for this marginalized community that nobody talks about. Children, their feelings and needs are marginalized all the time. We jump to our judgments because we're inconvenienced by the fact that they have feelings and needs. There's a long history of children's feelings and needs being marginalized. Do as I say, because I'm your mom, because I'm your dad, because I said so. That it's just supposed to be that they're automatons and they're supposed to do as we say. But eventually we're going to come up against a kid that's so autonomous they won't. Yeah. The belongers may get frightened because we might raise our voices, or they may feel that the love is threatened in our relationship because they don't just do as they're told. And so they start to just do as they're told because they're terrified. If I don't, what's going to happen to my relationship? I'm afraid you're going to stop loving me.
Yeah. Hey, brother, does this sound familiar to you? Maybe you're powerful at work, you're respected, you're competent, you're driven. But when you walk through the door at home, you feel like a stranger. Maybe your marriage feels distant. Maybe your temper's shorter, your body's softer. And you've been stuck in this loop where you're showing up for everyone except for the people that matter the most. I know that pain because I lived it. And that's why I created the Dad Nation Coalition, which is a 1-year high-level coaching community for career-driven men who are done settling for success in only one area of their life. This isn't just about getting more productive or working harder. This is about reclaiming your role as a present, powerful, and peaceful leader in your home, in your marriage, and in your body. Inside the coalition, we don't just talk about growth, we build it. You will create a life that your wife wants to be a part of. You'll become a father your kids look up to. You'll wake up proud of the man staring back at you in the mirror. And here's the best part, you won't do it alone. You'll be surrounded by a brotherhood of men who will challenge your excuses, sharpen your edge, and celebrate your wins like family. In the DNC, you're going to get 12 months of bi-weekly coaching calls with me and the other members of the coalition. You're going to get a customized fitness and nutrition plan designed for your specific goals, and exclusive access to my flagship trilogy called The High Performance Husband. You're going to get a one-to-one mastermind with me where we build your blueprint for success in every area. And lastly, an invitation to our exclusive annual mastermind and retreat. Brother, this is the framework that I use with my private clients, and it's led to real marriages saved, real bodies transformed, and real men rising up as the leaders they were meant to be. So if you're ready to rebuild your body, reignite your marriage, and rise up as a high-performance man of purpose, then apply today. Go to dadnationco.com/DNC or hit the link in the show notes below. Brother, let's make these next 12 months be the ones that changed everything for you. All right, now let's get back into it. That's interesting because, like literally an hour ago, I was talking with a client about this. And we were working through, a fight that he had with his wife because they had come home. She had come home late, and she just got into it with the kids, and they were dysregulated, and she was dysregulated, and then he was like, "You mean to tell me like mom's coming home this late, and now we got 2 hours to spend together, and you guys are just upset, and then you're walking on her," and then he's getting mad. Because it's like, why can't this family just get along? We got 2 hours together. Yeah. And then he's getting, and of course that spot. And then she's like, so he's trying to make the peace. And then she's feeling like he's not defending her, but he's mad at the kids. Yeah. And we were talking about this. And I had said, hey, did you ask the girls what they were upset about? Did you ask the girls if they missed their mother today, or, what that looked like? And we were having some conversation about it. And I said, could it be that perhaps you're holding your children to a very high emotional standard, that of which might be even difficult for us as adults to live up to, let alone a 9-year-old and a 10-year-old, right? And so we had this real candid conversation around, what it looks like to meet our kids where they are. And I think that's a big mistake. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. I think it's a big mistake we make as adults is we look at our children and we just assume and we hold them to such a high standard in how they conduct themselves emotionally, psychologically, all these things when their brain isn't even fully cognitively able to even process these things in the way that, in fact, sometimes we're not even good at it, but yet we hold the bar so high, and then are disappointed when they don't respond the way we need to. Do you see those patterns as well?
Yeah, I totally do. I mean, it's, I can see your client was obviously in such a pickle. And I can imagine mom comes in and her bandwidth is like next to nothing, probably.
Yeah.
Right? Her bandwidth is next to nothing. She's exhausted. She's been working all day. She gets home and she has space for maybe one or two behaviors, which have to do with just hugs, kisses, and lovey-dovey, behaviors from the children. Anything other than that, she's exploding because she just doesn't have the bandwidth. So when we think about it as bandwidth, then we're like, oh yeah, when you don't have the bandwidth, you're drowning. So mom is already drowning. And now she's got these kids who, I agree with you, were probably feeling like their cup with mom has not been filled for a while. Their mom cup needs to get filled. And they're so hurt and sad and disappointed mom cup isn't filled that it overflows as the tragic expression of their unmet needs. Mm. So they're needy and they're needing their mom cup to be filled with, yummy, hugs and that kind of stuff. And instead mom comes in and she's wiped and she's having trouble meeting her needs herself. And so when they show up and they act out, they're acting out of their unmet needs. She perceives it as, oh my God, you guys, can't you just, what's wrong with you? And why are you so, grumpy? And then she gets triggered by their lack of just warmth. Mm. And then they get triggered by her lack of just warmth. Each one's wanting the same thing from each other. Can't we just put everything aside and just be warm and cuddly? And dad's like, oh my God, right? Because there are all these unmet needs in the room.
Yeah.
And then people go about meeting their needs in ways that are almost guaranteed not to receive them. Right. So about the last way you're going to meet your needs for, hugs and cuddly mommy is to be irritated. Mm. So that pushes her away, which is the very thing they wanted. And the thing she wanted from them gets pushed away. So now we're in a desert.
Yeah. And you all got the one thing you didn't want.
Yeah, which was further distance.
Yeah.
So when you take a break, it's almost like you need to snap out of the dance, because my guess is the dance has been going on for a while. How do we snap out of the dance? Well, we have to find those times to fill up our children's cups. Mm-hmm. And we can't do that if we're also needing to be filled up. So it's work-life balance. We're back in the land of work-life balance and recognizing that, it's skewed and it's not balanced. And how do I find the balance of being able to meet my needs so that I can be present and meet my children's needs? There's a rule of thumb that there should be 20 minutes a day of one-on-one child-directed activity so that mom and dad each are building their relationship and filling the cups of the kids so that when we're in activity zone, the deficits don't show up and hijack our time together. So 3 types of time. The time I spend taking care of me so that when I'm in the activity time with other people, I'm not so depleted that I can't be fully present. So that really is developing a meditation practice or whatever the grounding and centering practices that you are drawn to so that you have a practice in your life to keep yourself centered so that you're not operating at a deficit. So I've got to take care of me, which is also great modeling for children.
Yes.
And then I need to take care of my one-on-one relationship with my kids and my spouse and the other people in my important inner circle. Let's just keep it to the kids and my spouse. That already is hard to do, which is why it gets more and more difficult to keep really close relationships outside of that inner circle, because we are all working on this paradigm of there's only so much time in the day. But if I'm making time even if I can't do it every day, but if I'm making appointments with my kids and I'm saying, I really miss our one-on-one time together, and I feel like it's affecting our activity time together. And I don't know when we can do this on a day in, day out basis, but I know I could plan something on Saturday and probably Sunday. And maybe even if we can't do it during the weekday because I'm busy, it's not that I don't want us to have one-on-one time, but maybe we could book something, even if it's a text message, a time when it's just you and me texting each other, whatever fits in. But the minute you start to show your kids that they matter that much, that you're looking and searching for ways to connect with them, they begin to feel valued just from that one act.
Yeah.
And it can shift the dynamic a lot. Also with your spouse, no matter who the initiator is, we're all so freaking busy these days. If we just take that minute to reach out and say, I feel like we're not getting enough time together, let alone us and the kids. And I do recognize that we need to figure it out. So how about if we have a babysitter or whatever on Friday, start to make those dates. But the more we take care of ourselves, the more we take care of the one-on-one time outside of activity time, the better and smoother activity time goes.
Yeah. 100%. I was having a conversation with a client a little while ago, and they were talking about how they can't, having a hard time making time to go on a date, and then talked about the cost of hiring a babysitter. And I said, hey man, what do you think is cheaper, a babysitter or a divorce lawyer?
Yeah.
You choose.
Exactly.
Right? And at the end of the day, that, that's, I speak a lot to men, and obviously, and when we talk about taking ownership, and stepping into leadership in the home, it's leading the way in that. I mean, like,
absolutely.
Hey, when was the last time we spent time together? When was the last time you spent time with just you? When was the last time you went out and had a facial or pedicure, or when was the last time we had a date, or we both spent time with the kids or whatever? And I love how you break that down, and how we spend our time each day. One quick question, because a lot of the men that listen are in positions of leadership, entrepreneurs, CEOs, things like that. A lot of these guys really excel, in the boardroom, so to speak, at work. But then they come home and they really wrestle with the children, and they wrestle in their parenting styles. They wrestle having margin, capacity, and they have quite a short fuse. And we've probably talked about this a little bit, some remedies. But to the man who's listening, who might say, why is it that I feel so powerful at work, but I feel powerless when I come home? In the context of my parenting, like I have no control of my kids.
Yeah.
I'm overwhelmed and I'm snapping at them. What piece of advice would you give them?
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of our, behaviors, again, that we have tolerance for when our own bandwidth is so limited, it's really, we can just start with our own bandwidth. Like, before I walk in the door, what can I do to provide the oxygen mask to me so that I'm as centered and as grounded and have as open a window as possible to be able to manage more behaviors that don't fit into, like, brush your teeth, put on your pajamas, go to bed. Like, how many more behaviors can I accept? Can I accept their acting out behaviors because I recognize it as they're swinging from the chandeliers potentially, because again, we're back to kind of the same thing. Their dad child one-on-one 20 minutes a day, child directed activity. Do that one thing every day, and all of the behaviors that are difficult to manage will probably disappear, because those are the tragic expression of the unmet need. And the need is for connection. So the only way to meet the need for connection is to meet the need for connection. And how do I meet that need for connection? I carve out time. And so time is our most limited resource. And what does love equal? Time. It's not stuff. It's time. It's connection. It's being together. And I'd say the same things apply when we use the mom example. where mom's getting home late, dad's getting home late. Send a text. I mean, a lot of little kids don't have phones, so maybe that's not practical, but in some way reach out to them so that they either through mom's phone or a nanny's phone or whatever, they know, dad's not there, but he's thinking about me.
Mm-hmm.
And the message really is, I'm coming home. I've been thinking about you. I'd really like to do something fun that you think is fun. So when I get home, here's the thing. I need a couple of minutes to wind down. And it's not about me not wanting to spend time with you. I'm kind of tired at the end of the day. And if I could just have 10 or 15 minutes to wind down myself and kind of just breathe through this move and transition, I'm going to be more available to you.
Yeah.
So again, we're teaching kids about this thing called feelings and needs. And if I can meet my needs for my own, like we all need time alone. And I think, if you're a busy guy in a boardroom and you're managing other people and you've got stuff going on, you probably haven't even met that need for yourself.
Yeah.
Let alone trying to meet the interconnected interpersonal needs in my other relationships. Right now, I just need to meet my need for, my one-on-one need for me, right? My need for solitude potentially. I mean, if you're not a meditator, meditation is amazing. I would like to suggest that your audience think about that. That's where you get bigger than what's bugging you. Your sense of self exceeds any one aspect of your beingness. So in that mindset, you get so much more capacity to be able to manage any of the breakdowns that are happening in your life with more compassion and understanding for yourself as well as the other.
Yeah, absolutely. That's powerful. I mean, and we could talk about the geek out on the neuroscience of what happens when you're in a state of fight or flight. And realistically, a lot of men come home, from work, or women or whatever, and they still have things going on. They're still frustrated by this thing that would happen at work, and they come home and they're already dysregulated, and they're going from a place of dysregulation into a place of dysregulation. The prefrontal cortex is shut down, and your ability to be empathetic and think reasonably and logic, and I mean, is all out the window anyways. Yeah. It's interesting you mention all this, because I walk my clients through just what I call the 5-minute preparation pause, really. And they, I just tell them, hey, take 5 minutes, park in the garage, stop, wrap up your emails, send close any loops, right? Finish those conversations via text, and then take 3 or 4 minutes to breathe. The 4-7-8 breathing method or box breathing, whatever your thing is, get regulated, put on your mask, so to speak, your oxygen mask, not put on a different fake mask.
Yeah.
and prepare, take a moment to pause and prepare, because when you open that door, you have no idea what's going on the other side.
Exactly.
And so what does it look like for me to show up powerfully when I step through the store and prioritize the things that matter most? So I love this conversation today, Katherine. I do have one more before we wrap it up here. Sure. And this is a conversation or a question I ask every guest on the show. And I'm kind of weird in the sense that I sometimes visualize not my actual death, but what people will say about me at my funeral, and I have people walk people through eulogy exercises and things like this. I think it's powerful when we think about the legacy that we're leaving. And so for a moment, if you would, with me, Katherine, I want you to picture, for example, you had passed away and the memorial service is over, and your children and, your partner are sitting around the table. Okay. And you have this ability to be a fly on the wall, so to speak, or an out of body experience, if you will. And you could hear the things that your children are saying about mom and the mother she was and the woman she was in the world. What are a couple things that you would want your children to say about who you were as a mom and how you showed up in the world and for them?
Yeah, what a beautiful question. So I would love for them to say that, mom got me. That, she really connected, and that it wasn't all about her, that she was really interested in what was going on for me, and that she was really positive, and that, there was a sense of, she brought that we can do it. And if we can't do it alone, we can do it together. And you're not alone in this. And we've got each other. And that she believed in me. She believed in me. She could look in my eyes and she could always say, "You've got this."
Yeah, that's beautiful. And I mean, at the end of the day, that's what we want, as children, to know that our parents understand us, they know us, they love us, they make time for us, they support us. It's a beautiful thing. So, I know that there are going to be people listening to the show that want to engage with you more, maybe, buy your books or hire you, whatever the case is. And so anyone who's listening who wants to just consume more of your content or just get around in your circle more, where can we find you on the internet?
Yeah, you can go to consciousparentingrevolution.com and you can find me there. You can also go to freeparentingbook.com, and I actually give my 7 strategies to keep your relationship with your kids from hitting the boiling point, which is the Amazon bestseller. So you can go to freeparentingbook.com. You can download the book. And if you get to the free book, you'll also get into the website that way too. So Conscious Parenting Revolution, I have a newsletter I send out every week. Father's Day is coming up. I'm not sure how soon this is going to go public, but potentially before Father's Day. I don't know. And so I usually offer some time for dads to just chat with me about whatever's going on. So there's a way to connect one-on-one and talk about anything that's happening as well.
Beautiful. Well, there you have it, friends. Katherine Sellery on parenting. I'm going to put her the links to her book and to the newsletter, the website, and all of her social media links below. I love that it also stands for CPR.
I know.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's probably
no accident.
I love
Life support.
Yeah. That's fantastic. Listen, thank you so much for joining us on the Dad Nation podcast today, Katherine. It's been a pleasure to talk with you, and you've just brought so much value. I know there's so many men listening who are just going to have so much to take away from this. And so, look forward to connecting again sometime. Thanks for being on the show.
Absolutely, Mitchell. It's been a delight. You're such a lovely gentleman, and I'm sure you're a great dad.
Thank you. Thank you for tuning into the Dad Nation podcast today. Listen, if today's conversation challenged you, if it encouraged you or helped you level up in any area of your life, would you do me a favor? Take 60 seconds to rate and review the show on whatever platform you're listening on. This helps us reach more men who need to hear this message. And if you haven't already done so, subscribe to the Dad Nation YouTube channel, where you're going to find full episodes, clips, and exclusive content designed to help you win at home just like you do at work. Remember, your family does not need perfection. They need your presence. Your leadership matters. So keep showing up, keep leveling up, and never forget, when the dad gets better, the whole family wins. We'll see you next time.